we will be the ones to produce things, and so on and so forth. And I can tell you these are possible. I'm not dramatizing this. Because it happened in Dubai, just a leader. Look at this, is the desert. And in less than 20 years, he changed it into one of the most modern towns. But that's not just Dubai. In Lagos too, in 2007, this was Oshodi. And then this gentleman came and Oshodi changed. So it's possible when you actually have a very focused thing. So before I leave you, I know each time I lecture, I have to also take opportunity, not to waste your time, but breaking the paradox with the NSIP. I head the NSIP, the National Social Investment Program, under our ministry. This is the ministry. The minister allows me to come and give lecture here, so I have to put her picture for you to see, so to prove that I have come here and I've delivered the lecture. The mandate of our ministry is there. He has so many departments and so on. But this social investment is part of the paradox rate, because it is a program that has two clusters. Empower, literally, is targeting to push the development of knowledge for productivity at the highest level. Then we have G. When you have knowledge, you need credit. We have a component. And then we have the school feeding program. The lady who is heading it is here. When you produce your eggs, your layer hole, and so on, the school feeding can take it. So we have created a chain of productivity if we are able to do that. And we also have a traditional cash transfer. If we do all that, you will find that that knowledge in producing tomatoes will become an enterprise. And young people will take advantage. The fishing will change. You will see the fish that is coming out of it. Our poultry will change. And you will see products that are unique, that are exported. Even our agriculture doesn't have to go very mechanized. It's small agriculture, and we have the institution to provide all this input to change it, to make sure this is happening. DG, for this to happen, I'm begging to launch a program to say that build a critical mass of skilled manpower innovatively. So when the government, either state government or federal government, is launching a big capital project, whether it's power or roads or water, say that your knowledge people must be part of it, so that you can actually learn what to do, and so on and so forth. I did that. I will finish with this slide. When I was Director General of NOTAB, I had the privilege as an administrator to say that if you don't do something, I'm not going to give you a certificate. So Friesland Campina Wampo markets milk. For 50 years, they have been bringing powdered milk, mixing it with Nigerian water, and selling it to us as pig milk. So I called them to a meeting. I said, Wallahi, MD of Friesland Campina, if we don't learn from you how to do this milk, Wallahi, I will not give you a certificate. Because I want to change the face of my own sister so that she can be happy too. They said, okay. So we went to Lagos. Because if we had gone to Adamawa, they would say, this is nepotic administration. I have carried this thing to my, you know how Nigeria. I took them to Lagos where there are no cows. We had a discussion with the Oba. All these herders that you see moving, they were moving in Oyo State in a place called Ishei. We stopped them there. When we stopped them, we started giving them. We didn't change how they were doing there, because Nigeria has a tendency that if you want to develop it, you start building 3-bedroom for them, you will spoil it. Leave them to do their hard. All we put is technical facilities to provide them water. We started training them, and then using the traditions, we train them, and then we show them how to measure their milk, and then before you know, calabash disappeared, and they started using technology to carry their milk. Now, even if they stumble and this drops, the milk will not, they will just carry it and go. We train them to come and queue up, and then, surprisingly, when the thing started making money, we saw Yoruba boys joining in with a little bit higher technology. I said, you see Nigeria, when you create opportunity, people will pick it up. And then they sell this milk, they put it in containers, they take it to Lagos, and I'm happy to report to you that as you drink pig milk today, there's Nigerian content inside. So they get paid, and my sisters now, you can see that they are fresh and so on. The next level now is for us to take it, to start establishing cottage industries, making yogurt, cheese, and so on and so forth. So the rest of the paper runs through like that, but I want to ensure, at least at this level, I have demonstrated to you a model of actually decoding the paradox. Like the chairman said, lift your education system, lift your education, understand the value of knowledge, and how you transfer the knowledge, we can break that paradox and raise our productivity exponentially. Thank you very much.
I think Engineer Dr. Uman Buba needs a better round of applause. Ovation, let's thank you very much, sir, for that wonderful lecture. I believe we all learned something clearly this afternoon now. Thank you very much. Please, you can be seated. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, sir, for that. I told you before that you can sit and listen to Engineer Dr. Umar Buba Bindiri for 4 hours without knowing the time is gone, because he speaks from his heart. And in that lecture, he clearly showed us the productivity hurdles, poverty, education, capacity building, and strong institutions. And he asked the question, how do we break the paradox? And he showed us clearly. Thank you very much for speaking to productivity partners and family members here present this afternoon. Before we get to the next segment, we are winding down already. I'd like to identify one or two dignitaries that just walked into this occasion this afternoon. Assistant Captain Eje John, representative of the Controller General of Customs. Thank you very much for coming, and other, thank you very much, sir. We appreciate your presence, and other members that are with you, your entourage. Thank you very much, the representative of the Honorable Minister of Labor and Employment, Dr. Peter Irimatafa, as he takes his leave. Thank you very much for coming. We appreciate you, sir. Thank you so much. Now, to discuss this lecture, there are a lot of high points that were raised. The chairman of the lectures, Dr. Sylvester Onoja, set the tone for the lectures, and we're rising, and a lot of issues has been raised to help us analyze and trickle it down, and also to address some of the issues raised concerning breaking the paradox. Is a man that a lot of us know his name very well in terms of labor movement in Nigeria. He's currently the Director General of Menes. Like I said before, he was with us in 2009, and today he's still here with us. We appreciate your presence. No other person than Comrade Issa Aremu. Please, can we make him feel welcome as he greets us? Please, I think we can do better than that. Let's make him feel welcome as he discusses the paper. Thank you, sir.
I concur with my very good friend, the Director General of the Production Center, that this table is not height sensitive. But I will try what I cannot have through my height. Maybe you get it through my voice. Let me recognize the Honorable Minister, ably represented by our Permanent Secretary, Dr. Yerima Tafa, one of the most productive Permanent Secretaries in Africa I've ever met. Throughout Monday and Saturday, we were here in Abuja, reporting as early as 9 o'clock for us to finish 10 p.m., reviewing all the clauses contained in the draft labor law. I bear witness that Dr. Tafa, with the two ministers, they are really very, very good. Let me recognize the chairman of the occasion, Dr. Sylvester Onoja, I hope I got it right, who turned out to be my teacher without even knowing that. So if I talk very well, please help me appreciate my teacher. He was one of the founding teachers of the best secondary schools in Africa. It is Ilorin Grammar School. I attended in the 70s. He was the teacher there in 1971, but I told him I came in 1973. And I think you said it all, the importance of education. I bear witness that education is the key, and that today that I can be a discussant twice in a row, less than 10 years, shows the importance of capacity building and education. Let me adopt all the existing recognitions that have been made because we have very limited time. But I want to, in a special way, to help me appreciate the guest lecturer, Dr. Umar Bindiri. Once again, a round of applause. And I was telling him that I have very little to add to his presentation. Here, we cannot close the gender inequality without partnership. And I'm happy that you have extended partnership to us as an institute. I also have my colleagues there, the DG of Productivity Center. And I think on this table we can have union of Director Generals. And if we work together, I think we'll be able to drive the agenda for national development. For very few points I just want to raise is that we cannot overemphasize the importance of productivity. And I think Dr. Bindiri has said as much about that. The truth of the matter is that we are not a productive nation. Let me put it that way, point blank. Belgium, with a population of just about 11 to 12 million people, produces twice as the continent of Africa. And I think this should really make us to really sit up. And I think the facts are there from the figures that have been shown on the table, that on the average on the continent of Africa, close to 65 to 70% of our people live below poverty line. And the only way we can overcome this is for us to really add more value, to be much more productive, as the case may be. And I think this year's lecture is coming at the time, just November 20th, where is the day that has been set aside by United Nations Industrial Development Organization to mark African Industrialization Day. And the whole idea is that on November 20th, with awareness, and we are the only one without a functioning refinery. That says it all in terms of productivity, because this is not hypothetical. And you can see the paradox where we find ourselves now, in which ideally increase in price of goods would be a blessing for us, in terms of foreign earnings. But now it's a cost because it impacts on the landing cost of imported petroleum products. When you also have the value of the currency, that also impacts on the cost of petroleum products. But there was once in Nigeria, maybe let me put it this way, so that I'm properly well understood. There was once a continent, there was once a Nigeria that was very, very productive. This country worked before very well. I can say proudly I'm a product of productive function in Nigeria, Federal Republic of Nigeria. At all levels, you want to take it. The late Metama Suleiman, may so rest in peace, Damusami of Kano, he was the first petroleum minister. I have to take petroleum because that is the mainstay of the economy, so that we can be a bit more global or practical in our discussion. He told us that the British did everything to stop Nigeria from setting up the first refinery in 1965, Port Harcourt refinery. But they put their feet on the ground and they said independence will not be complete only by raising Nigerian flag. Independence will only be complete when we produce what we consume. and they set up the first Port Harcourt refinery. Then, a few years after, you have the second refinery, Port Harcourt refinery. Then later on, you have Warri refinery. Then the fourth one, we had Kaduna refinery. In fact, late President Shehu Shagari in 1981, I think part of the third development plan, they've already conceived 2 refineries strictly for export, not for domestic consumption. What I'm saying here is that by 1980, Nigeria was self-sufficient, productive enough to produce enough petroleum products for local consumption for the entire West African sub-region, and such that we're even thinking of having 2 refineries established strictly to take advantage of international markets. I mean, that tells you that this country worked for. But today, we are the only oil-producing country that cannot boast of single functioning refinery, with all the paradox of challenges of the world. So let me use the opportunity to commend President Muhammad Buhari for taking the bold initiative first for bringing about the Petroleum Industry Act, because it's also a mark of productivity. How could we be at this place that the legislative framework that has been regulating the petroleum industry, Minister of Economy, was passed as far back as 1969. It takes a committed, strong president like Buhari to be able to say, let's change this. And today we have the Petroleum Industry Act that is in place. Now we can discuss the details of provision of this law, but the vision of this new law is that we must unbundle the refinery, we must be able to produce, we must make sure refineries come on board. Not only that, the president went further to commit as much as $1.6 billion to fix Port Harcourt refinery. And I think this is the way to go. If we combine that with new initiative from the states now, setting up modular refineries and possibly Aliko Dangote refinery, again, please let me appreciate Aliko Dangote with a special round of applause, because he's changing the narrative of the continent in terms of productivity. Until about 10 years ago, less than 10 years ago, we were importing cement with all the blessing of limestone. But today we have moved from that importation of cement from abroad. Now we are self-sufficient in cement, and Aliko Dangote is driving this. Not only that, we have refineries established by this group in many African countries. For me, this is the way to go in the true sense of the word. Then the last 2 points I thought I should have, because Dr. Bidiri, you said it all, and I don't want to. You gave practical example of how we can add value, and I want to commend you for the effort you're also raising, catching them young, the beauty of education. And that's very, very courageous, for you to, after passing through private sector, public sector, you now see the need for the risk sector, which is the human sector, for you to catch the young ones, And that means that you must be highly well blessed and be willing to give back. You said as much about that, but there are 2-3 issues I want to quickly raise. One is that we can't drive development or innovations, growth, economic growth, if we don't have certain basic few factors in place. We need some simple things to be put in place. And I want to say here that it is the human aspect of it. First is time management. Time is very, very critical in productivity. Productivity is an input-output concept. The time you put into production is extremely very, very important. I want to also put it this way: Nigeria can please work more. And I'm saying so as a labor man, I can make do with more holidays, although now I'm a laboring director general, so I can't say I'm a comrade now. But I try to do the calculation. I've been saying this not because I'm a DG now, even as a trade union activist. We work for 8 hours. When you compare how many hours China works, Indonesia, you will agree with me that they work longer hours. They also work on Saturday or Sundays. Of course, I subscribe to ILO philosophy that after 8 hours, work becomes voluntary. You should pay overtime. But let's take the 8 hours. The official working hour, time to report to work is 8 o'clock. But on the average, most, especially public servants, and I'm seeing this one now coming from private sector, they don't resume until 10, 11 o'clock. And when it's about 12 o'clock, we start school runs. They want to go and pick children. When it closes about 2:30, 30 to 3, everybody's on the road to beat the traffic. I don't think we can be competitive with this kind of time management. I think we need punctuality in productivity for us to drive productivity improvement very, very well. And I've seen it in the institutes which have been asked to manage now. In the fullest of time, my institute was established in 1983 by President Shehu Shagari. And you could see the effort of the founding directors. They did a very wonderful job to build that institute. And later on, 1993, the former military president named it after our founding Grand Comrade, Michael Imudi. And this institute worked very well. We had DG John Olarewaju, who did a very good job, very enthusiastic. But somebody else came in. And within the 5 years, the institute ran down. I learned it wasn't, at times, it may come once in a week. And even if it comes to work, to be around 2 o'clock, you can see the essence of attitude to productivity and the importance of timing. I made it mandatory for myself since I've resumed in May. I resumed to work every day, 7:45. And I don't leave my office until about 4:30. And we can see the results, increasingly now. The institute is coming back. Hostels that have been abandoned, we need to renovate them. Our stakeholders that refuse to patronize us because of decline in services, they are fully back now. Please help me appreciate Nigerian Labour Congress. They are coming back with Hamatan to come and train, to come and have their Hamatan school with us in the next 1 week. So what I'm saying here is that I think time is very critical in productivity. Then you also take the number of public holidays that we take. Again, you check the record. You have May Day, which is my own. I cannot oppose that. Uche, you are here. This should not be used against me. But you have Democracy Day. I don't know how you can defend democracy when you are at home. I thought the anti-democratic forces would be more at work. I thought the best way to deepen democracy is for us to work. Of course, for the two faiths, we have, for we the Muslims, Idil Kabir, Idil Fitri. And at times, if they fall on a Saturday, we may award another one on Monday. Of course, for the Christian, you have Christmas, you have Easter, you know better than me. What I'm saying is that the choice is ours. But for those countries that we are competing with, I think we need to review some of these paid, idleness, if I want to call it that way. That's not to say that we should not be able to rest, but what I'm saying is that when we are working in invited command, you agree with me that we're poor. Is it when we're at home doing nothing that we'll be able to get out of poverty? I think we can make do with more time in terms of our work. Then the last one, which I think I should also emphasize, extremely very, very important, and I think this is the point you raised about the importance of education. Now we need to revisit and go back to the drawing board. I can see the very good job that Dr. Billy is doing, and there are many other ones like that who are training our younger ones, taking them out of schools, giving them computer. But those are few numbers. As good as we are, for you to drive development, you need critical mass, of students, of youths who have the skills, who are well educated. I think Nigeria must declare a kind of emergency once again on the need to reinvent education. I was checking the figure yesterday, and I discovered that there's actually new illiteracy for a country that was almost, we are moving on, and I think Dr. Sylvester, you bear witness to this as an educator, that by 70s, 80s, the dream of Nigeria is that by early 80s, we should have eradicated illiteracy completely. You have universal basic education, you have crash programs to teach teachers, you set up public universities in good number, but the new figures we are having is that we have new illiteracy, in which literacy level figure has declined sharply now to just about 59%, from promising of about 70%. So if countries like Zimbabwe, which has gone through host of economic challenges worse than Nigeria, could be reporting close to 95% literacy rate. Small countries like Cuba, 99% literacy rate. Of course, Sweden and many countries, of course, China, you also know the good job they've done in eradicating illiteracy. I think Nigeria must revisit the question of mass education for all our children. And that will require commitment by public institutions back again. I listened to those figures you gave, Dr. Sylvester, about how many universities have been private universities that we have now. But it's okay, how many students will they turn out of this mass youth that we are turning out? So we need to return to public education, public investment in education, in a way that we train mass of our children so that they have the skills for development. Then the last one is the one that affects me, and I think this is the labor sector. Dr. Ashim Akko, please, another round of applause for you, and I think you've done very good job. One of the things I want us to do now, we have to partner more, because I manage the Labor Institute. We need to relook at our curriculum so that we factor issue of productivity into education of the workforce. Extremely very, very important. Not just for us, but even for the political class. When you see even our politics, it's politics of sharing, not politics of production. Everybody wants to share the oil revenue, but you don't see policy soundbite about how do you generate wealth. The motto of Nigeria Labour Congress, of which I used to be twice vice president, reads Labour creates wealth. Labour has to create it, because Labour also knows that without creating wealth, there's nothing to be shared. You can engage in endless right. If the enterprise cannot offer anything on the table that has been produced, it will not be sustainable, whatever the outcome of your struggle. So I think we need to look at the curriculum to reflect that. Then, with the best of effort, I also want to say that we have to look at how we can manage the labor issues. Because I look at this year's budget, about 16.5 trillion naira budget. There's a new national development plan that has been launched, and that's highly commendable. I want to commend the president for returning us back to development, because we lost decades through structural adjustment, abandonment, development. If we are continuing with the first, second, third development plan, and along that line we have 4 development plans, that's the miracle of China. They've been planning very well. Maybe we wouldn't have been where we are today, but I'm happy now development plan is coming. But all this will not be sustainable until we manage the human factor. Comrade Uche, let me go, you are from NSC. I got currently 67 research institutes are on strike. Research institute nationwide are on strike. But what is newsworthy is that when I saw the background paper, which the 2 unions signed, they too regretted that strikes are becoming too frequent. In fact, they sound like they are also strike fatigue. Even the strikers are tired of strikes. Now, what does that one mean? Which means we must look at what leads to labor dispute. We need to find a way to sit down to promote social dialogue, proper understanding on this. Because you can't drive development. I've told you the number of hours we put at work within 8 hours. Public holidays, not to talk of other legitimate holidays. Then you now had with unofficial shutdown of institutions due to avoidable, preventable labor disputes. And I think one area I want to suggest is that government must respect collective agreement. Very, very important. We need to promote more social dialogue so that all the parties know that everybody is better off if we can negotiate through collective bargaining. I came from a private sector union, textile workers union. 45 nations already put in place if we address the need to have peaceful industrial atmosphere, that will sustain peace and harmony in the world of work. Of course, the issue of electricity is also important. You can't talk of productivity without electrification. Power supply is still very, very erratic. Insecurity has compounded all this. But there are some that we can really take as challenge for all of us. But once again, Dr. Biri, let me appreciate your presentation. And I want to say that this is the hope of the continent. Nigeria must learn to really sit up to meet that challenge. In the 70s, 80s, when I was in university, all the figures we got in terms of GDP growth rate, China was behind us. There was also a productive Federal Republic of Nigeria. So if we had it before, I think we can have it again. And now I'm happy the way we are going now. We have a third development plan, massive investment in infrastructure, by this administration. I think we should promote more of this discussion. Our productive center, you are the center of it all. But nothing will be done if we also do address the labor sector so that we have proper industrial harmony that will allow for sustainable productivity. Thank you very much.
Please, can we give Comrade Issa Remo another round of applause? Thank you very much for shedding light and trickling it down for our understanding. He was able to raise our consciousness concerning some salient issues that affect productivity also. The issue of timeliness. The Nigerian time factor is a problem to productivity, obviously. Public holidays, too many of them, said they need to educate the next generation. Labor issues, industrial peace, insecurity, infrastructure, and he has also pledged to partner with the Director General of National Productivity Center to work on labor issues together. Thank you very much, sir, for that discussion, for really going through the paper to help us to understand it better. Thank you very much. Distinguished participants, please, can you put your hands together for yourself? You've been amazing so far. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Before we go, we take the goodwill messages from our social partners. I'd like to recognize the presence of Mr. R.O. Onikoi, the head of audit unit of the National Productivity Center. Please, can you rise for identification? Thank you very much. Thank you very much, sir. Yes, sir. To receive the goodwill messages, we'll take it in this order. Please, you have between 3 to 5 minutes. Thank you very much as you keep to our time. We're already past our planned scheduled time. The representative of the Nigeria Labour Congress, Comrade Uchenna, please, can you take the podium? Thank you very much, sir.
Good afternoon, Chair. I better lean on the protocol already established because the time given is short. The Director General of Productivity Center. First, we want to appreciate the Productivity Center for setting up this meeting. Thank you. And it has been a very wonderful one. I want to join in appreciating the presenter of the paper. Unfortunately, he's out because I felt he raised a lot of issues, and I felt in our small message we will reflect on some of them because very wonderful paper, practical in his submissions. But if we leave this hall without getting to where we make this thing reflect, because we are talking about productivity. If we don't get to how we make it reflect on the economy of the society in the next 1 year, then something is still missing. that means we are back to where the problem is. First thing I want to identify with the DG might consider. In this hall today, I don't think that the representation of Ministry of Agriculture, Petroleum, and some of those sectors are at the high level. Because this outcome have to be in practice. And we have to make it less intellectual discussion to practical things. And I give one example. We'll be talking about the efforts of the government and agriculture. Because this meeting should not just be too intellectual without getting to concrete issues. Today, Nigerian beans was returned last year from export. Why? Because the chemicals that was used to preserve it was too harsh, and before it will expire, those who produced the beans exported it, and it was rejected, and it was brought back to Nigeria. Now, to solve that problem is having bags that those beans will be packed, already made, that will meet international standard, and the goods will be exported. So, how do we reconcile that in 1 year time, there are no such bags available to the workers that produce beans? Now, those beans will be wasted because of wheels, or the people will do it with their own chemical that will be injurious to people. And the beans is very expensive, people are hungry, and so much money has been budgeted for Ministry of Agriculture, and a bag that might be 100 naira, 500 naira a bag cannot be produced in 1 year. Today, if you go to Europe, what you see they are selling is Ghana yams. That is first spot. Then the yams are from Benue. The Ghanaians take it to Ghana, arrange it, and export it. I am happy. Customs and immigration people are here to move products. A container product might end up costing you $3,000 from Ghana. To move it from Nigeria, it costs you $40,000. These are real issues. That's why I was a bit uncomfortable where my comrade Issa was reducing it to holidays. The holidays are no issues to these real issues. Because how many holidays? Many countries have more holidays. The 8 hours is enough to do all this. It's enough to do all this. The critical issues are some of these basic. The man who has struggled in the village to produce rice is harassed by NAFDAC to register that rice. And NAFDAC registration cannot empower you to export one single agricultural product. These issues Ghana have dealt with. I like the presentation of the chairman, and I cannot afford to put their children in such institutions. If you go to those institutions, those that are there will be balanced between north and south. Because it's only those who have money to put their children there, and their children are there. And we seated in the table, none of us went to private institution. So when we are talking about this education, it will be out of place to be hoping that it will be private institutions that will do it. First, they have few people is unaffordable. Even there is an embarrassment with the so-called institutions. Because their fees are too high, they don't even produce those who can contribute in production in practical terms in the society. What do I mean by that? So many of the parents who pay so much money pay extra money to get their children passed. So they don't even read. So about 50% don't pass properly. Because their parents have paid so much money and they never train the children at home to know how to be productive. So they have to pay through, because when they have those big certificates and come out earlier than our children, they will now be given employment based on the high certificate that have no linkage to reality. So we must take these things head on. If we want to deal with these things, we must take.
Thank you very much, ma'am. We appreciate you. Dr. Michael Mbata, Director of Rural Employment Promotion. Thank you very much, sir, for coming. Malam Issa Abdul, Director of Vocational Skills Development. Thank you very much for coming. Also, Malam Aliyu Abubakar, Director of Procurement. Thank you very much, sir, for coming. I appreciate your presence. Engineer